Hello, and welcome back to Hunter Tuned. Today we're going to keep plugging away at the Mustang. Sorry if you guys are sick of the Mustang, but I plan on getting back to the Hondas soon. I just really want to get this car situated and out of the garage and moving under its own power before we start any other projects. But yeah, anyways, so I picked up a transmission temperature gauge this morning from Competition Products, which is actually like 2 miles from my house. It's like a mini Summit. It's not quite as big as like Summit Racing or anything, but they do sell a lot of stuff and a lot of like engine parts and whatnot. And I picked up a transmission temperature gauge for my dash. So we got the tranny temp now, voltage, temp or water temp, oil pressure, boost, RPM gauge, as Emilio would say. And then AEM wideband down there as well. So I got to go get my wideband actually because I only have the wideband that's in my hatch, and then I have a wideband that's in my truck right now. I don't have another one for the Mustang, so I need to get another wideband at some point. Yeah, if anybody's got a cheap one, let me know. I only like the AEM widebands, but if you guys have one like used that you're not using or whatever that you would sell for cheap, let me know. Like I said, I am looking to get one. I just don't really have the money to buy a brand new one right now. But yeah, so anyways, it does suck too because this trans temp gauge is like a white outer face, but it's still black like background with the white lettering just like all the other ones, but the outside trim piece is white instead of black, but so is my boost gauge. But that's a little bit annoying. I got a little bit of OCD with this stuff, but it's not going to freaking ruin my day. It's not going to make me lose sleep or anything. But yeah, so I explained pretty much the oil pressure and water temp gauges already, but I did not explain the transmission temperature gauge. So it does come with this fittings. It comes with a few different fittings right here. Pretty much going to ditch the big guys and just use the small little sensor on the top here. It's just an 1/8 inch pipe thread temp sensor that we're going to thread into the test port on the TH400, which is on the driver's side, like right kind of in the middle of the case. It's just an 1/8 inch pipe plug that you take out. I already have a sensor in there from my old trans temp gauge, but I'm switching everything over because yeah, the gauges that I was running didn't work that good, and yeah, you get it. So I'm gonna go get my wideband so I can wire all the gauges in together, and then once I have every single gauge, I'll wire the last switch on the dash, which the last switch on the dash is going to be for accessories or gauges or whatever. So that'll all be cool. And then later down the road, I'm not going to do it right away, but I will be putting in another switch for the headlights and taillights, which I'm not really in a rush to do at the moment because I don't really care to have them at this time. But anyways, I also went to the junkyard this morning and I picked up 2 steam ports. So yeah, here I am in the truck now, and these are the steam ports that I picked up from the junkyard. These are just 2 crossovers for the front. They normally go on the front of the engine that connect both cylinder heads together, because the LS engine actually has a steam port system on it, so it can relieve any trapped air or air pockets in the cylinder head to help better the cooling system. And the way I had all this set up before is I had the older trucks actually come with a 4-port system, and the 4-port system has pretty much these all 4 because there's 2 on the front and 2 on the back. There's 2, and they all connect together into one, but there's one little line that connects both of them together that runs from the front to the back. And I actually, with this LS1 intake, when I put it on, I actually crushed the frickin' line. So I wasn't running the 4-port system. It was collapsed and wasn't actually venting, properly how it should have been. So how I'm going to do it now instead is I'm just going to get 2 separate ones and then have a rubber hose connected to, and then get a T off of it to run up to, the rest of the cooling system. I might just plumb it right into the water pump right here, or into the radiator, one of the 2. I got that idea from a guy, and he says that it should, it should work just fine. Hopefully we can get it to bolt up and everything like that. Oh, sorry guys, I am freaking sick. My whole family's kind of sick right now, so it really sucks. But I'm kind of powering through it, drinking a lot of water, and trying to keep moving. I feel like, they say like, oh, your body needs rest and stuff when you're sick, but I feel like, honestly, I feel sicker when I just sit in bed. You know what I mean? So, anyways, I'm going to get this intake manifold off of here, and then we're going to try to hook up those steam ports. All right, guys, I haven't picked the camera up in about a day, but I think I left off, we were messing with the steam ports a little bit. So I got the steam ports installed onto the motor here, and if I take the intake manifold off, you can kind of see, like, you have to bend, like, the outlet on the steam port. You have to bend it, like, out of the way. And I ended up bending this one down and towards the camera here, and that should allow me to slide a hose over this and not interfere with the intake manifold. And I'm unsure if I'm going to run a hose underneath the manifold here and put a T like under the manifold. I just don't know if there's enough room under there for the T to actually work, or if I'm going to run up a hose from the back side. I had to do that on the back as well, like I was saying. The steam port outlet, I had to bend that kind of out of the way in the back as well. So I don't know if I'm going to run a rubber hose from the back and kind of run that up and then plug it right into here. This is where my old temperature sensor was for my coolant temp gauge, but I'm not going to be running this anymore, so I might just put a barb fitting on this, which is just the outlet for the spacer for the truck crank pulley for the LS1 water pump. You got to have this little spacer here, and it's tapped with 1/8 inch, so I might just get a barb fitting out of here and connect, the steam port to this, and then run this steam port on the front of it, run that one to the radiator, because I have a spot on the radiator and I have that spot on the water pump. So I think that's what I'm going to do for the steam ports. It'll keep it simple and I don't have to tee anything, and at least they're still getting they're still allowed to circulate, you know what I mean? So I don't think it really matters where the coolant goes from the steam port, as long as it's going back into the cooling system somewhere. I don't think it matters really where. But yeah, so anyways, I got the gauges all installed into the car. I got them all wired up, and they look freaking awesome. I spent quite a bit of the day yesterday just wiring gauges, and it can be a little bit of a pain in the ass to like run a bunch of wiring and individual gauges and whatever. It's time consuming for sure, but I'm actually really pleased with the result of the gauges and how everything is looking. I had to go get a bulb for my boost gauge because my boost gauge did not have a bulb on the back side of it. So I got a bulb for that, and then I ran pretty much all the power wires for every single gauge. I ran them together to one, and I ran that to the switch. And then I have a switched, or not a switched, but I have a fused power coming off my fuse box that's under the dash going to the other side of the switch. So the power going into the switch is fused, and then coming out is going to all the powers on the gauges. And for like some of them, like the battery voltage gauge, I have that power going into the rest of the powers as well, so the gauge will see 12 volts or battery power. And then same thing for the tranny temp. There's actually you have to feed power and ground to the sensor part of the gauge, not just the light bulb, so I tied that in as well. And then these ones are fully mechanical, so like the water temp and the oil pressure both just have like hard lines going into them because they're mechanical, like I was saying. And then the boost gauge, I have to run a vacuum line still, but that's really no big deal. The tack is just power ground, so I ran the power, and then the green one is the signal, which the Mega Squirt, the gold box, has a tack output wire. So I ran the tack output wire from the Mega Squirt to there, and the O2 sensor wire, so there's like a bunch of wires over there on the Mega Squirt as well. There's 2 O2 sensor outputs, so you can put the primary O2, I just went right to the wideband. The white wire off of the AEM widebands is the output for your data logger or whatever. So I ran the white wire from the AEM to the O2 number 1 on the Mega Squirt, so the Mega Squirt will have an O2 sensor reading. What else did I do? I got the push button start wired up. I was saying that in the last video, I think. But yeah, I'm going to power this stuff up quick. So I turn one switch on, and I got my tack, my wideband, all the lights for all the gauges, and we got 12 volts battery voltage there. everything's looking pretty snazzy. And then this second switch is the ECU power, so now the ECU is actually powered on, and I could technically plug into it or start the car. And then these last two right here are the fuel pumps. Now, I get it, guys. There's been a lot of comments on the last video saying how I should not be running my fuel pumps on a switch because the switch can't take the load and whatever, and you need to use a relay to run your fuel pumps, which I get it. I understand 100%. The proper way to do it is to run a relay with bigger wires going into the relay and out of the relay or whatever, and then just using the fuel pump trigger wire on the Mega Squirt to control it. I already had the car set up like this, like I said, with those switches. Those switches are a 35 or 40 amp switch, so they take the load just fine. And like I said, I had the car set up like this for, over a year now. And my 06 Silverado, I had the same way. I had a second fuel pump on one of these same exact switches, and it works just fine. I like just using switches because it keeps it simple for me. Wiring relays and stuff is a little bit like confusing for me. It's not confusing. I know how to wire them and I know how they work and stuff, but I feel like it just adds complications to the system. But like I said, I may switch and put more relays and all that kind of stuff into the car, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. And I already had them set up on the switches like this, and it works just fine. So I'm just going to keep going with what I got. And like I said, if I got to add a third pump or get a bigger pump like a MagnaFuel or something like that, which I think I'm going to have to, because I only have two Bosch 044s, and I don't know really how much power those can make in dual configuration. So if I do add a third pump or if I do upgrade the pump, I'm going to switch the wiring around. But like I said, for now, this is how I'm going to run it, and sorry if it hurts your feelings. Now, I still have to find a block for the back, like where the oil cooler bolts on. I still have to find a plate for that so I can run my oil feed line up, because I actually stole the one from my Mustang to use for my truck. So I got to get another one of those, and I also have to drill the return line into the oil pan and get the radiator and stuff mounted back up in the intercooler and whatnot. But for the most part, this thing's almost ready to start, minus having oil and shit in it. I don't really want to start it. I'm not really like I'm not like jonesing to fire it up because I know it should run. I kind of want to just make sure everything's tidy before I fire it up. Like, I don't know. I'd rather have everything done and then fire it up, so when I do start it, I can just go ahead and drive it right away or whatever. But I still need to get a frickin' windshield and some other stuff. I'm probably going to end up selling some stuff to make some money so I can have enough money to go racing before the end of the year. Like I said, I want to get this car out by the end of the year. Maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, but the budget is kind of limited. I spent quite a bit of money building this thing, like the Mega Squirt and the springs and the cam and the head studs and all this shit and the turbo. I mean, I got a few grand into it, and you know, that's a lot of money to somebody like me. So this thing drained my frickin' pocketbook to build it. So kind of struggling to get it dialed in before the end of the year on a limited budget. But like I said, I want to try to do it and try to go frickin' make a pass in it at least, maybe, and see how it goes. I still got to get spark plugs too. I cannot find BR7EF spark plugs anywhere in stock at a parts store, which is frickin' annoying. I might just have to order them online or something. The BR7EF. I also got my Trunion bearings for the last rocker arm, so I'm going to actually do that quick and show you guys how to put the Trunions on the rocker arms, on the stock rockers. I think that'd be kind of cool to show you guys quick. And honestly, that's probably going to be it for this video, guys. Oh, also, if anybody knows on the alternator, I have a single wire alternator, I believe. And I think I just ran 12 volts switched through a resistor last year to power the alternator, but this car had a shitload of voltage issues last year where it was only seeing like 8 volts wide open and whatever. And I might have to do what A21 Bravo did and get a different pulley for the alternator. I know he did that and it solved a lot of his voltage issues, especially revving like 7,000 RPM kind of thing. But yeah, so alternator signal wire is what I'm saying. The wire to trigger the alternator, I think you just got to run like a resistor or something. I still have to do that, wire that in. But yeah, so I'm going to quit ranting. I'm going to pull this coil pack off and the valve cover, get that Trunion off, and then I'm going to install that Trunion kit and show you guys how that's done. Okay, so I got the valve cover and coil packs off, and I got the rocker arm off. This is the last one I need to do because I installed trunnions all in the stock rocker arms. It's a trunnion upgrade kit, which just keeps the rocker more stable and prevents, you know, the rocker from coming apart at like super high RPM and stuff. And I installed all of them, but in the package when I bought them from the seller on eBay, it was missing one trunnion and both the bearings for the trunnion. So I had to wait on them to ship me the new one, and I got the new ones now. So I'm going to install this last one here on camera for you guys and show you how I did it. All right, guys, excuse the mess on my workbench here, but pretty much I'm grabbing the trunnion here and opening my vise, and this is like a big 22mm socket that I'm going to put on one end of the trunnion like so. And I'm going to put this into the vise like this, and then on the other side I have a 9/16. Yeah, I have a 9/16 socket that I'm going to use as a tool to press out the old one. So that just kind of fits right over the stock trunnion here, and I'm just going to kind of use the vise as leverage and compress the old trunnion right out. And then once you have them positioned into the vise, you know how you should. It takes a little bit of finesse, like holding all three at once, but once they're like compressed, you just freaking turn the vise in and pushes right out. There we go. So now we can take the socket out, and it just falls right into the bigger socket on the other side. So there we go. This is the stock trunnion, and when you take them apart, they usually break. That one didn't. Kind of surprising. So now we're left with a bare trunnion or rocker arm like so. So we're going to take our bearing. So the kit comes with 2 bearings for each trunnion. So we're going to install one of the bearings into the rocker arm first. So we're going to take the bearing. It's got stamped writing on it. You want to make sure the writing is out. So we're going to take the vise and kind of just push this thing into itself so the bearing gets pressed in. And I noticed that a 5/8 socket fits perfectly over the bearing, so I use a 5/8 socket and kind of take the socket and push the bearing in. There we go, one of the bearings is in. Now that that is done, we can take the actual trunnion and slide it through. Alright, so this is going to be our trunnion right here. We're going to slide this guy through like that. And then their kit also comes with this little washer, which actually fits perfectly around the trunnion on the other side, so you can use this as a tool to install the other side's bearing. So now I put this right back in the vise, but with the other bearing on the other side, slide that over. And then do the same method with my 5/8 socket and press it on. It takes a couple tries with a bench vise that's a piece of shit. My bench vise is not that great, but it does get the job done. So now I'm just going to make sure that this thing spins freely inside of here, which it does spin like butter. And then last but not least, you just want to install the snap rings on each side of the trunnion. So take your piece of junk needle nose pliers here that is modified for snap ring use, and I just got to open it up and slide it over the trunnion like so. Make sure she clicks in, and that is all she does. That is all you need to do. And then it's got one snap ring on the other side as well. And there we have it. Everything's back installed. And I have all 16 trunnions now, so that's a plus, I suppose. But yeah, so anyways, probably going to call it a night for today. You know, I was saying that this car kind of drained me money-wise, and honestly, it's not necessarily a bad thing, I guess, because it is what I enjoy doing, and I eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff. It's what I live for. This is what I live for. So I mean, if you got to spend a little bit of money to do what you enjoy, you know, by all means go for it. No sense in being miserable and not being able to do what you enjoy. So I'd rather be broke as fuck, not have anything to frickin'. I'd rather be super broke, eat ramen noodles every frickin' day, which is what I've been eating lately. Uh, I'd rather be broke and have a car that I'm proud of, and a car that I can call mine, and a car that I've had hours and hours and hours and hours and thousands of dollars into, than have money and have no car to be proud of, kind of thing. So yeah. Anyways, I just got to figure out some more ways to make some more money, and that we can just continue going with this as long as we please. And so we will keep trucking, keep our heads up, and keep her fucking moving, I suppose. But yeah, so anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I'll try to get some action here one of these days. I would like to take the truck out and show you guys what that thing is capable of now that it's on E85. But I do need a different fuel pump or something for it because it's kind of out of fuel kind of early. So I may take the truck out one of these days like I was saying, have some fun with that. And hopefully the Mustang will fire up one of these days as well. So be sure to subscribe, like, comment, and my sick ass is going to get inside and fucking play some Call of Duty. New Black Ops 4 is pretty badass if you guys haven't played it. I played on Xbox One. Yeah, pretty badass game. So anyways, have a great night, guys, and we will see you later.